nobya ang atletang si Oscar Pistorius na tinaguriang Blade Runner. Sa Amerika naman, summer na summer sa South Dakota pero biglang nag-snow. Yan at iba pang balitang abroad, tinutukan ni Trisha Zafra.
Lumulutang na sa baha ang kotseng ito nang datna ng rescue team sa Memphis, Tennessee sa Amerika. Kinailangang sagitin ang driver gamit ang lubid. Maraming residente na rin ang inilikas. Kabilang na ang may ilang kapansanan at sanggol. Sa tindi ng baha, nagmistula ng lawa ang bahaging ito ng syudad. Summer pa lang ngayon sa Amerika, pero animoy isang Christmas village na sa Rapid City, South Dakota sa sobrang kapal ng snow. Pambihira raw itong mangyari, pero hindi naman inaasahang magtatagal ang pag-ulan ng yelo. Ito na raw ang pinakamaagang snowfall na naitala sa lungsod sa loob ng mahigit 120 taon. Naging taimtim ang paggunita sa ika-13 anibersaryo ng 9/11 terror attack sa New York. Inalaya ng rosas at maliliit na watawat ng Amerika ang memorial site, habang isa-isang binabasa ang pangalan ng mga biktima. Naging emosyonal ang ilan sa mga naulila. Nakidalamhati sa kanila ang ilang opisyal ng New York. Si US President Obama at si First Lady Michelle sa charity work sa isang public school idinaan ang paggunita sa 9/11. Tumulong sila sa pag-repack ng mga libro at laruan para sa mga bata at sa pag-aayos ng isang playground. Itinuloy na ang paghatol sa Olympian athlete na si Oscar Pistorius. Hinatulan siya kahapon ng not guilty sa kasong murder dahil hindi raw sapat ang mga ebidensya para sabihing sinadya niyang patayin ang nobyang supermodel na si Riva Steenkamp Valentine's Day noong nakaraang taon. Kanina, hinatulan naman siyang guilty sa kasong culpable homicide at mahaharap sa aabot sa 15 taong pagkakakulong. Si Pistorius ang kauna-unahang double amputee na sumabak sa Olympics at tinaguriang si Blade Runner dahil sa blade na kanyang ginagamit sa pagtakbo. Trisha Zafra, Nakatutok, 24 Oras.
2 buwan matapos isilang, hindi birong pasakit ang pinagdaanan ni Baby Edna Lynn dahil sa pagkalaki-laking bukol na labis na nagpahirap sa kanya. 2 taon matapos sumailalim sa operasyon, silipin po natin ang kondisyon ngayon ni Baby Edna Lynn.
Bakit si Edna Lynn pa? Ito ang pinakamalaking katanungan ng inang si Jerlyn sa tuwing pinagmamasdan ang kanyang 3 buwang sanggol. Isang bukol ang pasan-pasan at nagpapahirap sa bata.
Nung una po kasi hindi po nila pinakita sa akin na ganun yung bukol niya. Nung pinilit ko po si midwife na iharap niyo po sa akin yung bata. Nung nakita ko po, siyempre bilang ina, hindi ko po manos sarili ko. Kaya gusto ko po sanang matanggal yung ano niya.
Kaya ang mag-asawa na labis ang pananabik sa kanilang unang prinsesa, napalitan ng pangamba kung paano, saan at kanino lalapit ng tulong para sa bata. Sa inyong mga tulong, naging matagumpay ang operasyon ni Edna Lynn. Kumusta na kaya siya ngayon? Sa muling pagbisita ng GMA Kapuso Foundation kina Edna Lynn sa bayan ng Difun sa Quirino, hanap kami ng hanap kung nasaan na nga ba ang bata. Aba, eto na pala si Edna Lynn ngayon.
Ngayon po, ito, masigla yung bata, taray ng taray. Kung saan nakakarating, masaya po ako na nakikita siya na ganyan, nakalakad na po siya.
Kung bakit nga ba si Edna Lynn ang maagang sinubok ng buhay, tanging ang lumikha lamang ang nakakaalam. Marahil para ipakita sa atin na gaano man kabigat ang suliranin, basta't may malasakit at pagtutulungan, nalalagpasan.
Susunod, pagtama ng solar storm. Ano nga bang magiging epekto sa ating mundo? Walang patid na pagtutok dito sa 24 Oras.
Floods have now hit more than 1 million people in Kashmir and left 450 dead as authorities plan drastic measures to stop more deaths. Days of heavy rain have lashed the mountains and valleys on the border of India and Pakistan, flooding whole towns and causing landslides which have devastated people's homes. Today the waters began to recede as more than 300,000 people were left stranded in Indian Kashmir alone, but authorities warned there could be more flooding to come. Hospitals are struggling to cope with the scale of the disaster, which has affected more than 1 million people. The flash floods have washed away tens of thousands of people and crops for many thousands more in the key farming region in just 1 week. Phone lines, power and water supplies in the northern Indian region have been down for days, and authorities say food and water supplies are running low. Earlier today, officials said the death toll in India and Pakistan combined had reached 461 as Pakistani troops used helicopters and boats to evacuate thousands of marooned people, while India's military dropped food for hundreds of thousands. On Pakistan's side of the border, the floodwaters were threatening huge tracts of farmland in Punjab province and millions of people in the cities of Muzaffargarh and Multan, the heart of Pakistan's cotton industry. Pakistan's army planted explosives today which would be used to blow up 3 strategic dikes to divert waters away from the cities. A senior multi-government official told AFP the dikes were likely to be blown in the evening, but the blast could be put off if the waters recede. Similar drastic measures were taken yesterday to protect the city of Chhag, further upstream, where 10,000 people were evacuated overnight. All schools in the Multan area are expected to be closed for the next 2 days after troops rescued 22,000 people stranded by floodwaters so far in Pakistan. Of the 461 dead, 261 were believed to have been in Pakistan while 200 were in India, but the toll is expected to rise. Pakistan's National Disaster Management Authority, NDMA, said 7 more people had died as Pakistani Prime Minister Awaz Sharif pledged compensation worth £6,000 to families who had lost their loved ones.
It's Friday, September 12th, and here's some of the news beyond the headlines. The UN is warning that what it had once considered an efficient way for health workers to reach Ebola patients is actually spreading the virus in Liberia. The World Health Organization says motorbike taxis that usher people around the crowded streets of the capital Monrovia are rarely disinfected between rides and have become a, quote, hot source of transmission of the virus. Ebola kills more people in Liberia than any other affected country, and the UN says it expects thousands of additional cases will be recorded there in the coming weeks.
We just want to have our voice. We just want to be heard.
Hundreds of thousands of people gathered in Barcelona on Catalonia's National Day to demand the right to vote on independence from Spain. The northeastern enclave declared itself a nation in 2006, a claim Spain's constitutional court overruled. The government in Madrid has threatened to block a referendum that secessionists announced for November 9th, but Catalonia's president says it would be impossible to stop them. Mexican drug cartels may have discovered how to cut out the middleman. Authorities have destroyed what is believed to be the country's first known coca plantation. More than 1,600 plants, which contain the raw ingredient for cocaine, were seized in the south of the country this week. Coca is native to the Andes, but experts say the plant can survive anywhere climate conditions are favorable. UN officials say the discovery may hint at an attempt by Mexican drug cartels to reduce their reliance on South American suppliers. All members of the British military are from now on expected to be a little more cautious when they talk to members of the press. The UK's Ministry of Defence has imposed new regulations that require staff to provide written accounts of their conversations with journalists, including casual exchanges at social functions. The guidelines also apply to academics and the representatives of unions, lobby groups, and think tanks. The MOD also has plans to replace embedded journalists from outside organizations with its own media team. Check out the Vice News YouTube channel for more original reporting and documentaries from around the world.
So now that there's a lull in the fighting, whilst the ceasefire is still holding, the DNR are in this area trying to blow up some of these unexploded shells to try and minimise the risk to civilians. Jeez. That was a lot bigger.
South African athlete Oscar Pistorius has been found guilty of culpable homicide after the judge found he killed his girlfriend by mistake. Judge Thokozal Al-Masipa said the athlete acted negligently when he fired shots through a toilet door, but in the belief that there was an intruder. She said the state had failed to prove he intended to kill Reeva Steenkamp. The judge allowed Pistorius to remain on bail ahead of sentencing, which is to take place on the 13th of October. Arnold Pistorius, the athlete's uncle, said the family was deeply grateful to the judge for finding him not guilty of murder and that a big burden had been lifted. There are no victors in this, he added. We as a family remain deeply affected by the devastating, tragic event. It won't bring Reeva back, but our hearts still go out for her family and friends. South Africa's prosecuting authority said it was disappointed Pistorius was not convicted of murder, but said it would wait until after sentencing to decide whether to appeal. The verdict leaves the disgraced sprinter facing up to 15 years in jail, although the judge could suspend the sentence or only impose a fine. The athlete was also found guilty on a charge of negligently handling a firearm that went off.
Militants on Wednesday released all 45 Fijian peacekeepers they had held captive for 2 weeks, bringing an end to a crisis that ensnared the UN monitoring force in the chaos of Syria's civil war. Fighters from the Nusra Front captured the Fijian troops late last month in the Syrian-controlled side of the Golan Heights, where a 1,200-strong UN force patrols the disputed buffer zone between Syria and Israel. The area along the frontier has since been engulfed in heavy clashes between the militants and the Syrian military. All 45 peacekeepers are in good condition and were being taken for a quick medical assessment, a UN statement said. The Fijians were taken hostage the same day that nearly 80 Filipino peacekeepers were trapped by Syrian opposition fighters. The Filipino peacekeepers later escaped. The hostage crisis raised questions about the future of the decades-old UN Golan mission, as participating nations threatened to pull their troops out because of Syria's escalating violence. The Fijian troops were captured August 28, a day after militants seized control of the Syrian side of the Quneitra crossing from President Bashar Assad's troops. UN